Hey guys, red and black greetings. This is Flamengo. Welcome to the Paparazzo Rubro Negro channel. If you're new here, please follow, like, and share on all platforms. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe below. Turn on notifications by clicking the bell and drop a like on the video. We're here to remind you that you can get official Flamengo products at the YouTube shopping store, a Flamengo sponsor. You have products here to choose from. There are Super Cap hats, the new jerseys, new Flamengo tracksuits, everything for you to choose from. And you'll be helping Flamengo because it's official merchandise, and you'll also be supporting the channel. Also remember that you can secure your spot at Flamengo games with Haroldo's Caravan. It's been around since '81, man. Taking Flamengo fans to the Club World Cup. It's amazing. A really serious company. Okay. And you won't regret it, because they even operate in Rio de Janeiro. Reception with the ticket included in Rio de Janeiro. There are also trips, for example, packages for the Champions League, so it's really worth it for you to take advantage right now and get to know Haroldo's Caravan. Man, I'm going to start right off by bringing you some important information, right? Are you worried about Lucas Paquetá's situation? Yes, it's worrying because Flamengo would have to include Lucas Paquetá so he could get some minutes against Vitória in the Copa do Brasil and be available. So he wouldn't have to come straight back against Atlético Paranaense on artificial turf. I'm really worried about the fact that Lucas Paquetá can't start playing against Atlético Paranaense because Flamengo is actually very short-handed in this game against Atlético. It's important to remember that Jorginho is suspended, Arrascaeta and Paquetá, right? Paquetá is coming back, but we don't know what condition he'll be in. That's what we have. The situation with Everton, Araújo suspended, Eric Pulgar, who might also return, but coming back on synthetic turf, so it's very concerning. Flamengo might have to use a player there as the holding midfielder, someone like Leo Ortiz, for example. It could be. Now, if Paquetá were to return, that would be really good. Why? De La Cruz usually struggles on synthetic turf, though he performed well the last time he played on it this year. It's also rare for him to play at high altitude or on synthetic turf. So De La Cruz might even start the game because he did well in the last match he played. He might, but Flamengo really has very few options in midfield. They're very limited right now. But it could be that Saul starts. Saul still isn't at the level expected for an away match against Atlético Paranaense. So, I'm really worried about the match with Atlético Paranaense. Why are you less concerned about tomorrow's game against Vitória and more about Atlético Paranaense, Paparazzo? Because against Vitória, Flamengo can use the players who are playing. They can use the players who are active, like Everton, Araújo, and Jorginho. But against Atlético Paranaense, they can't, okay? So everything will depend on that situation, and that's the information from Coluna do Fla. Before Flamengo released the squad list. Yeah, Flamengo, they released the squad list and all, but we have the information from Monica Alves from Coluna do Fla, and I really confirmed that it's very difficult, okay? They don't guarantee it, but it's very difficult for him to be included in the squad. Paquetá would be out of this match against Vitória this Thursday for the 5th round of the Copa do Brasil, okay? There's a possibility that number 20 could return against Atlético Paranaense on Sunday, but the synthetic field is causing some caution behind the scenes and could delay his comeback. We had already talked about this, right? And now it's being confirmed. Lucas Paquetá is very unlikely to start against Atlético Paranaense either. Terrible, man. Terrible. Flamengo is in that fight for the lead with Palmeiras in terms of points dropped. Flamengo has 1 game in hand. They're also 1 point behind, but they have 1 game in hand. So that's in terms of points dropped. Okay, guys? It's 4 points overall, but in terms of points dropped, if Flamengo beats Mirassol in the postponed game, Flamengo will be 1 point behind Palmeiras, and there are also the head-to-head matches, okay? So Flamengo is holding their training session this Tuesday afternoon, okay? This training session will determine who will be selected. The training started at 3 in the afternoon, and the squad will stay at the location until they head to the airport at 7:40 p.m. for boarding, okay? So the game is at 9:30 p.m. this Thursday, right? Flamengo versus Vitória, okay? So it's Vitória versus Flamengo at Paradão, a very tough match. Flamengo won by just 1 goal, and there's the pressure because Flamengo recently thrashed Vitória, right, by 8 goals. They want to get back at Flamengo somehow, maybe by eliminating them or something like that. There's also the fact that Flamengo won 2-1 and they complained a lot about the refereeing in the last match. There were issues with red cards and everything else. So there's a lot of pressure. They appointed Klaus for the Flamengo match, so it's already a tough match. And the next game against Atlético Paranaense is even tougher. In my opinion, this is the toughest game Flamengo will have, maybe in the last 10 matches. For me, this game against Atlético Paranaense. There's a lot of pressure on refereeing. They put Flamengo in twice, so the game is on, okay? I think it's definitely a concern, not knowing if you'll be able to count on De La Cruz, not knowing if you'll be able to count on Paquetá because of the synthetic turf issue. So who's going to play? They'll have to adapt, right? Jardim will have to adapt. My friends, I'm here to bring you some important information regarding the issue with Conmebol, okay? It's a provisional punishment for Independiente Medellín, a light punishment, okay? A light punishment. Conmebol has applied a light punishment at this moment, keeping Independiente Medellín in the competition, which even makes me think they might not apply the walkover. For God's sake, this is ridiculous, man. They're already covering up what happened there, right? A very light punishment for Independiente Medellín. The only thing left now is for them not to apply the walkover. The only thing left now is for them not to apply the walkover. According to ESPN, Conmebol has decided that Independiente Medellín will temporarily play their next Libertadores matches behind closed doors, both as the home and away team, which will only help the other clubs, right? Cusco and Estudiantes. It doesn't help Flamengo at all. It helps the others because they'll play against them with no fans. Notice how odd that is. Flamengo is being harmed while others benefit, right? Let's go. They'll play behind closed doors after the trouble in the stands. The measure will last for 60 days initially, so in the next Libertadores or Sudamericana, they're already allowed back. It's a shame, right? I'm telling you, Conmebol doesn't punish racism, violence. They don't punish the way they should, right? The Colombian club could still receive a harsher punishment. I hope they do that, right? The final decision will be announced by Conmebol by May 19th and should include the definitive punishment for Medellín, as well as the likely confirmation of the 3 points for Flamengo. That's what we hope for, right? That's what we hope for. It's unbelievable that they don't do that. There's not even a date set for the match, and we can't fall for the São Paulo journalists, for the São Paulo club influencers, saying that Flamengo is being favored. Favored my foot, right? Not favored at all. Flamengo was harmed, couldn't play, and faced serious risks there. It's absurd. If those guys weren't able to hold the game there, that's their problem, okay? Flamengo has nothing to do with it. So honestly, guys, for me, this win, I even included in Leonardo Jardim's unbeaten streak list. He reached 10 unbeaten games, but if we count the game against Independiente Medellín, that's 11 unbeaten games, and it could reach 12 in the game against Vitória, okay? So, Flamengo beat Santos, beat Cusco, beat Fluminense, beat Medellín 4-0, beat Bahia, beat Vitória, beat Atlético with a 4-0 thrashing, drew with Estudiantes, drew with Vasco. It's a walkover for me. There's no other option. Situation, another possibility with Medellín, and they beat Gremio 1-0. So, counting all these games and including the cancelled game and the walkover, Leonardo Jardim could reach 12 unbeaten games against Vitória. Now, the important news here, straight from the Placar Studios. I'm here at Placar, the team is working right next to me, and I'm bringing you this important news, okay? It's been checked and confirmed here too, okay? Flamengo is looking for, as we reported a few days ago, Flamengo is looking for a left back in the market, already considering that Alexandre might retire at the end of the year, right? Flamengo may need to find a center back due to Danilo's situation, okay? So according to the GE portal, Flamengo is interested in signing Kaique Bruno from Cruzeiro for the 2027 season. The left back is a player coach Leonardo Jardim asked for. Flamengo has already shown interest to people close to the player. In addition, Jose Boto, Flamengo's football director, received representatives connected to the athlete at Ninho do Urubu for a brief visit. He also met with the agent for the forward I mentioned to you, the Argentine, right? Well, he's not Argentine, but he plays in Argentina. He received the agent there at Ninho do Urubu. He's been doing that meeting with agents there. During the meeting, the director showed the training center facilities and talked about the club's plan to bring Kaique Bruno to the club in the future. The main reason Flamengo is only considering Kaique for 2027 is the issue I mentioned to you about Alexandro, since Flamengo still has Alexandro and Ayrton Lucas until the end of the year. it's also because he has already played 13 matches in the Brazilian Championship. So Kaique Bruno has already played 13 matches, and it's important to mention that he has a contract with Cruzeiro until the end of 2027 and at the end of the year. He can't leave for free. He can only leave for free at the end of 2027, but he can already sign a pre-contract in the middle of 2027. So the club, knowing this, will prefer to negotiate rather than lose the player for free at the end of the year. So the chance of Flamengo signing him, if he doesn't renew, is huge. So Flamengo is already laying the groundwork to make this move to sign the left back who is on Ancelotti's pre-list, an excellent player. So he's still open to discussing a renewal there at Cruzeiro, but Flamengo is keeping an eye on this signing. The Minas Gerais club is likely to resume talks after the World Cup, and by year-end he'll have only 1 year left on his contract, making things easier for Flamengo. If he hasn't renewed, Flamengo could manage to sign Kaique Bruno. I repeat, he's a player at national team level, an excellent player, and he's even on Ancelotti's preliminary list. And I think he can add a lot to Flamengo. For me, he's one of the best fullbacks in the Brazilian Championship, okay? From Brazilian football, South American football, and someone who can be signed. And it'd be another national team level signing for Flamengo. I believe, okay? If he doesn't renew with Cruzeiro now, after the World Cup, I believe it could even be an easy option for Flamengo to sign him. It'll come at an interesting price. Flamengo could even make a deal with Cebolinha, who knows? Sign him as well. They've already done that before. And look, Flamengo fans are in favor of the signing, okay? The signing is approved by Flamengo fans. Yeah. They answered our poll here on Instagram. 75% of Flamengo fans want the signing of Kaique Bruno, 21% don't, and 4% want it right away. In other words, if we add yes with right away, we have 79% of fans wanting the signing of the fullback Kaique Bruno from Cruzeiro. Augustinho sent in, he's a star and young, he'll add a lot to the squad. Santos, 77, sent in, Cruzeiro won't let him go for less than 10 million euros. Kaique as a fullback isn't worth it, but he would really raise the level of the squad. I agree, okay? Okay? Michel Janiquez is saying here he prefers Luciano Juba, Alebe Souza. I would go after Juba from Bahia. I think he's better. Yeah. Raul Jr., he plays really well. Matthias said, I think it's a bad signing since Flamengo already has a left back, Matias Vinha, on loan to River Plate. He should be permanently signed from River Plate. With Alexandro possibly retiring, Flamengo needs a replacement, so this is a smart move. I respect the opinion. Okay? Valdir Jr. says it's needed. Alexandro is already used to being on the bench, and Ayrton Lucas should be sold. Okay? You want Ayrton Lucas to be sold. The problem is, like you said, Alexandro might retire, right? Andro, yes, I prefer Juba. A lot of people are talking about Juba, okay? Another one asking to sell Ayrton Lucas. It's Junior Soares, Kaique Bruno, and the left back from Bahia, Luciano Juba. A lot of people are talking about Luciano Juba. I prefer Juba, okay? It's either him or Juba. Anyone who comes is great. I mean, a lot of fans out there, right? They're asking for Luciano Juba, okay? So just recording the comments from everyone here. We might have him back on the squad. We'll find out later since Flamengo is already traveling today, right? For the game over in Salvador, the forward Wallacean trained normally yesterday, right? He's training today as well. He had a positive performance in his activities. The information we're getting here is that he showed positive development, okay? A positive performance according to reporter Angelo Furtado, right? Wednesday's training session will be considered decisive to determine the athlete's situation, but at this moment, the expectation right now is that Wallacean will be in the matchday squad for the match against Vitória, okay? So Wallacean might return. He said, the coach said he was there. Yeah, a bit. He wasn't integrated, right? He wasn't very integrated. He said the same thing about Plata recently, and Plata is doing great. So I do believe in Wallacean's recovery. He was a standout against Chelsea in the Club World Cup. Yeah, he has quality, but he really needs it, right? He needs to fix a few things, improve his mindset a bit, right? He needs to focus on playing soccer, right? Concentrate more on the games. That's really important, right? So Wallacean might be back in the squad, right? I really hope he recovers, even so Flamengo doesn't take a loss because they were going to sell him for 10 million euros, but the deal didn't go through because Flamengo didn't accept Red Bull Bragantino's payment plan. In my opinion, that was even a mistake, okay? Management and the football department make mistakes too. I think they should have sold him sooner. Not that he's bad, but the thing is, there are so many options at Flamengo that he hardly ever gets to play. You end up devaluing the asset you didn't sell for 10 million euros because you didn't accept the offer then. The issue of payment in installments, okay? But that's it. So Wallacean is training well and might be included in the squad again. There won't be, as I said, any targeting by the coach. Leonardo Jardim is the opposite. He always helps players recover. When he discusses a player, it's because he believes they can do better and wants to help them improve. Look, to wrap things up here, now finally we're bringing you something that's almost a done deal at Flamengo, right? Jose Boto would have blocked the deal with Shakhtar, right? But Flamengo didn't accept that offer and agrees to sell Rian Roberto to Benfica for 86 million reais, okay? The football director is handling the negotiations for the 18-year-old, attracting interest from European giants as well, right? A team from Ukraine and so on. Flamengo is taking a tougher stance with the Ukrainians. The information we have is that Jose Boto is still handling this deal, right? Aiming for a sale, especially since the player doesn't want to renew. Flamengo doesn't want to lose money in this situation either, like they've already lost with some other players, okay? Flamengo turned down an offer, according to our colleague Flazuero from Shakhtar Donetsk of Ukraine. Flazuero reported it exclusively last week, and now Flazuero brings exclusividade que Shakhtar had their offer of 9 million euros guaranteed plus 1 million euros in bonuses and incentives rejected by Flamengo, which is about 58 million reais. There are expectations that the kid will be sold. He's expected to be sold at any moment, okay? Benfica from Portugal is willing to pay up to 15 million euros for Rian Roberto, which is about 86 million reais, and Benfica has that capability, right? They usually sign players like that and then sell them for a good profit, right? That's how it is, and we know Rian Roberto's quality, right? The offer from Shakhtar Donetsk also included the purchase of 85% of the rights. The player would go to the Ukrainian club, they would buy 85%, and Flamengo would still keep 15% of his rights, okay? So Flamengo's management ended up choosing not to sell, right? Let me tell you guys, look, internally, Flamengo has already decided that they will only agree to negotiate Rian Roberto for amounts starting at 10 million euros fixed, plus performance bonuses, okay? This stance was reinforced by Jose Boto in recent talks with representatives interested in the player. So Flamengo will only accept it if there's still a bonus, right? In addition to the fixed 10 million euros, there's a bonus to reach 15 million euros, okay? So this news is important for us to bring up with Flamengo trying to recoup some value, some money, right? Flamengo didn't renew with the player, so he could leave soon for free with his contract ending. It's crazy. Flamengo is with their back against the wall to solve the situation with Rian Roberto, right? It's sad, but what can you do? These are things that happen in the transfer market. That's it. Follow, like, and share on all platforms. On YouTube, subscribe below, turn on notifications, and like the video. Thanks for your company. Red and black greetings. This is Flamengo. Big hug. Thanks. I'm out.